Hello everyone. We'll wait 1 minute before we start our live, but welcome to everyone who's joined today's live with the India Development Review. Today's topic is really topical actually because it is Pride Month. So today we're going to talk about LGBTQIA plus spaces in rural India and in small towns. So my name is Saba and I work at the India Development Review, IDR in other words, and I'll be in conversation with Rituparna. So before I call Rituparna on board, I'm going to introduce her. Rituparna is a queer rights activist. She's a storyteller based out of Jorhat, Assam. Rituparna is the founder and director of Akam Foundation, which works on gender justice and education, the intersection of it. She has been advocating for free community libraries for many years, and along with that, she has been actively mobilizing and organizing the queer community in Assam with a focus on rural areas and small towns, which makes this talk today really interesting. She has been instrumental in building the Chandraprabha Saikiani Feminist Library and Resource Center in Assam, which is a feminist action hub actually. And currently she's also the Associate Vice Chairperson for the Assam State Transgender Welfare Board and the Government of India's National Council for Transgender Persons, which is part of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So without further ado, I will invite her. Hello, Rituparna. Welcome to India Development Review's IG Live. I don't know if you could hear me, but I gave your introduction before you joined. Cool, great. So we'll get right into it. Welcome. So let's start, Rituparna, by, if you could tell us a bit about how you got into this field, working with young people on gender, sexuality, LGBTQ rights, and as well as, library education and storytelling.
Hello, Saba. Thank you. Zindabad. I'm so happy to see you virtually. So, hopefully, to meet you in person. But thank you for the question. And I don't know how I get into the whole work because I think I always say that this is the only work I know that work in the development sector. Uh, so when I was growing up as a young queer person in a rural part of Assam, very interior village, I had no other means to know about myself or look into their life, into my life in a different way. So at that time, only one thing I had access is books. So through books, I got friends. They were non-judgmental, and then I got many friends. And then I could wonder, I could aspire, I could get inspired, I could imagine, and I could actually imagine a better life. Reading books, and it made me resilient, and I could escape from all the bullies which happened in school because I used to be engrossed myself in library, in bookshelves, in a quiet corner of library, which is the most safest space. So somehow it stayed always with me that one day I will start a library. And it was not what we call now from Free Libraries Network as Free Library now. That time I used to think, no, but I always used to think that village people will also be able to come. I used to think like that. So this will be my library, but it will be open for anyone and everyone, so everyone can come. So then I studied, and I did my master's from this. So that time I was very clear that this is the way I will go ahead with it. And when what I am going to exactly do, then I somehow could articulate that I'll engage with books in one hand, I will engage with children, and I will engage with my community. And through all this, I will try to work with the larger society in general. because in my development practice, it has been one of the focused area, or I have been always clear that my work is not in silos, or it's not happening in some corner. It's happening in the society for long term, and to assimilate within the society so that everyone can have dignified life and justice for everyone, samajik nyay. So this is how my work gets shaped, and just trying to do my bit, trying to do my part. So yeah.
Great. Thanks for that beginning. It's not, you work in small town Assam, rural Assam, and I know you started Kithape Katha Koi, which is the first library space that you started, and the Feminist Library that you started, and Drishti Queer Collective. So all of these things kind of came together for you. So could you explain kind of to the audience, whoever the viewers are, the idea behind each of these in these rural spaces, and how difficult was it, I guess, to start in these spaces?
Yes. So when I was growing up, maybe I was in college or university, I used to always say that our movement has to go beyond city spaces or metropolitan spaces, because our people are in rural area, in small towns. What about them? But maybe my peers or the seniors, they had their own chosen way to do, and not many were interested to take forward to rural area. And it's an organic process, I believe, because their priority is different. So then I am like, why you are screaming? Why don't you take up, and why you don't do something? And this is where I started to work with my community. I started to engage with younger than me, and then through that, District Queer Collective started. The biggest vision of District Queer Collective work is to work in rural Assam and small towns of Assam, because there are no space for the queer community.
Mm.
So it started from Jorhat, then it spread across to different districts in Upper Assam and many parts of the Middle Assam also. And we started to mobilize young people to the collective and bring leaders. So it's like we have a core group of 15 young queer people, from rural or from small town. And I think that's a big deal for us when we could mobilize 15 young queer people as a leader, and where they do regular meetup in small towns, small places. Like many people who is listening now, it will be an unbelievable fact that when we do a small meetup in a rural, in a small town in Upper Assam, people come from, you know, here we don't count the distance with kilometer. We just count the distance in rural areas in hour or in time. Saba, you know that, right? So people travel from 2 hours
Mm.
just to meet for 1 year. So it means they travel like the whole day travel, they 4 to 5 hours they travel total.
Wow.
And just for 1 hour meetup, because you do not have anyone near to you, and you want to so meet people like you. So meetups are really, really important for all of us, and we really do. And all our young leaders, they take up all the meetups in small towns like Dibrugarh, Tinsukia, Dhemaji, Lakhimpur, Jorhat, Sibsagar, Gulaghat. So these are some of the districts which you do not hear about, or you don't know about it, right? So that's what our district collective, we organize the community, we mobilize it to do pride parade in small towns like in Jorhat, in Dibrugarh. Our young leaders have done pride parade. It's our young leaders, no one
Mm.
else, but they have been doing. And it takes a lot to tell that I am this, and you are walking with pride in the street. So that's one. Kithape Katha Koi, as I said, I wanted to start a library in my village. So I started in 2021. The community or my village people, came and joined. So when the Kithape Katha Koi started to work, and I felt, that this will go, and then the Drishti Collective was also going, and more young people are coming. That's time this whole idea of seeding the idea of Chandraprabha Saikiani Feminist Library and Resource Center came, because we needed more space, more social institute to build, from where we can take actions, affirmative actions for gender justice, to do more work for movement building practice in Upper Assam. And this is where one day, this one fine day, probably this idea came to my mind: why not a library, another library, and why not a feminist library? So this is how this feminist library came, because from the library we will take forward actions for gender justice, actions for social justice. So a library is the best place to do so, where people will come, they will discuss, they will have conversation, they will have debate, they will have argument, they will have vision for social justice, social action. And this is how we came up with the idea. And Chandraprabha Saikiani, because she is one of the pioneer feminist leader from Assam, who did work during British time only for girls' education, who had a cycle, and from one village to another village, she will go and mobilize girls for education, encourage young women to come forward and to work for themselves. And we found that that's the perfect name for us, to honor her and to take that encouragement and inspiration from her and to do. So this is where these whole three, spaces are working, but we are very clear the three of these spaces are for movement building. So we are movement building organizations. We are not XYZ NGO who are just trying to implement project. Definitely we implement project for sure because you need money. Maybe you can have another humor, social media post from idea on this. I
We will
love
welcome
reading.
one from you.
Yes. But then these all are our movement building practices from where we believe that you need more spaces, more social action, more leader, and more action. So, yeah.
Great, thanks so much. One thing that you said that really struck, and this is kind of where my next question is going to come from, is that in different rural parts or small towns of Assam, people, travel 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Pe young people who are queer, right? They come just for that 1 hour meeting, or they come in that space. I kind of was going to ask you that. Building this space and this movement, and giving it a shape like a library, for example, one of the elements. How does the community around, because I'm sure that library also engages with children who are not queer, for example, the community around, how has that, has there been more acceptance because of this space that you've created, or have there been challenges?
Thank you for the question because it's connected to our vision. So I have been always saying it when we're doing work for gender justice or the rights for my community, queer community. We will do through a library. There is a very clear-cut vision for this. That around library, around education space, people have a tendency to melt down. They will not do baptism, and you will have a common ground or common space to have conversation, because a free library can make possible for conversation. And we do not understand each other because we do not get engaged in conversation. So our biggest vision or dream or what we're trying to do is to get conversation with people so that they understand. We have a middle way or midway to go ahead and go around. And when we read, we think. And when we think, and we can have meaningful conversation. People who are doing all this danga fasad and all, they don't read actually. That's why they cannot think, and that's why they are doing all these sort of things. So, but in library, you have no space for those illogical things and all, right? So you can think. So this is where we have been consciously engaging with books, reading, that power of reading, right to read, and then engaging with everyone around us. So when you engage through a meaningful conversation, through reading, through democratic space and with values, then definitely people listen to you. So for us, working in library spaces and with around community in general, as queer persons, it has been wonderful. It has been wonderful acceptance we have been receiving. For example, our landlord at times he just, calls me to ask how I'm doing and all, because they don't live in the same building. They live in under small towns. And she one day just told me that she feels so proud that we have a library in her home, in her building. So it shifts the narrative, because this same person who asked one day that normal लोग भी आएंगे क्या आपकी library में? So and came with that question from a very not knowing space, not judging, but it's not judging, but it's like you are ignorant, you don't know, you don't have that information. So what I said, I don't know about normal people. but everyone will come. I said, and that was okay. That was fine to just have the conversation. And then now, when she just 2 months back, she told me that I feel so proud that you are my tenants, and then your library is in my building. I think this is what we want to do.
Right.
All the people around the library, they are so wonderful to us, and we have library extension program from our resource library, because the library is in a urban area, the Chandraprabha library. It's a small town area. So in a small town also there are different bastis and all. So what we do, we take out our books and our team member take them to the community, and they do reading programs and reading sessions and all these things. For a single moment, my team members or anyone have not faced any discrimination from the community. Oh, you are queer, you are this and you are that. So because you are going with a good cause, you are holding a
Right.
book. When you are holding a book and you are reading, you are talking about accessing free access to books and the reading and free library. I'm sure that nobody will dare to come and question you actually, and that's the power of reading. So it has been in that way a really wonderful journey. Like if I talk about Dibrugarh, that small town, has been giving so much of love towards us, so much of love. And it's not just the Dibrugarh, it's all the nearby district, because we engage with other people in nearby district also, be it Sibsagar, be it Tinsukia, be it Moran, Dhemaji, small towns. So it's wonderful. So yeah.
That's really wonderful to hear. The next question I'm going to ask you, half answered it, which the next question was kind of about how can the power of books be used to challenge queer phobia and things like this, but you half answered it. I was just going to ask you, do you maybe have an example of it, like maybe even a book that you use that have kind of changed someone's, or the community around. You gave one brilliant example, but through a book, has it ever happened?
Always.
Yeah.
Because when you read, you have conversation with people, they engage. So I have been training people on gender. You also know, from rural area, small NGOs, volunteers and workers from small towns in rural India. And I have been always reading storybooks to them. So once I read a storybook, then the whole, uh, you know, the power dynamics or a whole situation in the training space become, very different. It just shift the whole narrative. Recently, I had one training in Tejpur University where I was, providing training to a group of 20-25 people who comes from tea gardens, tea estates, and they are field workers for a specific program on ending gender-based violence in tea gardens of Sonipur district. When I did a storytelling of Putli Has Wings, and then the whole, group dynamics, the whole mindset, whole thinking, it become, very different. So I trained once 45 grassroots workers who are part of Mahila Samakha committees and all those Nari Adalat. So the village women, they do not have ideas about queerness, anything, and but they have the great acceptance.
Mm.
It means without even knowing, you can just accept someone, right? So, and I did the storytelling with them, and everyone is like, we never thought like this. And they're like, we will also tell stories more to people so that more people will know and all. So yeah, like just like Mirama, whom we met in Devtungri, and how she showed a way for all of us that what it looks like, acceptance, understanding about someone's story. And that's the power of storytelling and telling stories to people. It shifts the narrative. So yeah.
That's really beautiful, the power of acceptance that you just brought up. I have just two more questions because we won't make this live too long. One is, you talked about the Feminist Library, and you had sent me a bit of your bio about how it's, a space for action, for movement building as well. Could you tell me a bit more about it and how that's kind of different than in the other library space, and how, does Drishti Queer Collective also, are they also involved? So yeah.
Thank you. So when I say it's a feminist action hub, it's not just a library where someone can just come and read and borrow books and go back.
Hmm.
So we utilize the library space to organize the community. It's a meeting place for our community. So people can come and have discuss and do these things. Then we do a lot of events in the library, which is connected to the larger movement building practices. Events, meetings, educating people, doing reading circle, disseminating information, having discussions, conversations. So all these things, which is connected to the larger movement building practice, happens within the library. Also, when we do other movement work, all the action or the background work, we sit in the library and we do. So it's like the center point for our outreach activity, going to the street and doing some dharna or doing some processions, or maybe we are going to a college and engaging somewhere, or we are doing advocacy with district administration. So we sit in the library, we take help of the books and what we have resources within the library, from there we do. Another thing which we do very consciously within the library is research. So those research work is
Hmm.
research, yeah. So much to do with the movement, rights, and advocacy and all these things. And those tools and everything what we design from our research work, from there again we designed our actions and further action point and all. And from the library we do. This is why we are saying it's a feminist library. We do the feminist way of doing there, holding people in a feminist way, care, love, aspiring for equality, and then taking social action. This is what's probably the uniqueness of our library, that we do not try to confine ourselves just within the library framework or maybe within the library, but what we discuss, what we think, what we decide, we try to take it as an action from the library to the world. So this is why it's a feminist action hub.
Wow,
So that's how
fantastic.
I answer, yeah.
I'm learning so much in this during this discussion. Just one last question. Um, you know, uh, in you've mentioned this before when we've met, but also in articles and interviews you've mentioned that there's a severe lack, and we see it also, of access to basic rights services for queer and trans children and youth, such as something as simple as gender neutral toilets, or the fact that they can choose their own uniforms. That doesn't happen. Can you tell us about the current situation on ground in Assam? Because, and I want to tell everyone that you are Assam's state Transgender Welfare Board. You're on the board, and you're also on the National Council for Transgender Persons for the Government of India. So, have there been any government initiatives to improve these kind of conditions and access and rights?
Okay. Now, I'm just trying to think what should I answer. So many answers are there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the situations are similar everywhere. Just recently, the case came when a young trans girl was thrown out of the school because of her social media post. She is just she was just targeted because she's a trans girl, nothing else. Because similar kind of photos and posts everyone posts in social media. But why she was targeted? Because she's trans. So we know that our people are beaten by the railway police force still when they go for begging in railway. Now people will say the railway is not for a begging place, but then I will say that give us word, give my community word, then nobody will beg. So and then the situation is everywhere same. For example, I hear that many people will gather and then just try to see, oh, are you a real trans or not? He's kakapra uthao. So those situations are similar, same everywhere. Trans children are still facing problems or issues in schools. Queer children are facing issues in schools. I hear in any random days that it's not easy for them. So, but I will say it's a lot of civil society, a lot of collective, a lot of organizations who are taking definitely affirmative actions, but the thinking or the thought process are with government bodies, but I do not see it to translate into action. And I'm saying this might be controversial. comment for many, but I'm saying this being part of a council and a board also, because time to time we have been advising the government, we have been trying to advocate with the government, but especially in education spaces.
Yeah.
But we don't see a lot of affirmative action, and it's a fact. But we are hopeful that it will be, it will happen in coming days. It takes some time, but they're listening. They're trying to take a note of it, and they are trying to formulate or articulate. But implementation is the biggest deal. So implementation has to happen, and quick action. We cannot wait for infinite time, or you cannot wait for some undefined time and then something will happen. No. So we need more definitely actions from government, because it's government responsibility when it comes to education, when it comes to welfare of the people, when it comes to rights of marginalized community, when it comes to social justice. There will be actions and efforts by civil society. There will be actions by NGOs and non-government organizations, but those are very small efforts. We cannot make big changes about it. All of us know that we
Yeah.
all are doing this work, right? And we are doing according to our hayat, because government is not doing the work, those work. That's why we are taking the extra responsibility. So, and we are doing it. So that's how we feel that it's need that the government needs to take more action. Most importantly, government needs to allocate fund for welfare of these programs in the world,
Mm.
because anywhere you go, there is no funding. I'm not talking about funding to NGOs. That's a different chapter altogether. I'm saying that government is not allocating fund within their systems, within their schemes, within their programs to run the programs sufficiently.
Mm.
And I'm saying this in public forum now because it's a real struggle, be it for shelter home for trans people, be it for education, be it for employment, be it for skill building. Those are very inefficient or insufficient in terms of fund allocation. So we need to allocate more fund as a welfare state through the welfare of the people. And we all are very clear about it. So we need more, and also leverage between or among different government agencies, that you are not working independently this and that way. Because for trans community, if I'm saying that social justice ministry is saying one good thing, okay, I'm saying one good thing means X good things. It's not known by another Y department or Y ministry.
Mm.
They don't know about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the state level, the state government is saying something, the Department of Social Justice is saying something, but maybe the PWD department doesn't know about it at all. Or maybe the education department doesn't know, the health department doesn't know about it. And education, health, livelihood, then this the social justice department. These all should work, simultaneously and work together. So these are some of the challenges and loopholes I see as an activist, as part of the different institutes, and as one of the professionals working in this space. And I feel that I think that this should be leveraged and should have more affirmative action from government, and all of us will join hand in that process, because
Right.
all of our vision is there that our people needs to be benefited and social justice needs to be ensured. So,
Right. So in some ways, the movement building that you were saying, if the government takes a step and actually has the political will to help the situation and these communities, we have a movement with all these civil society organizations who will also step in and help implement and help the social mindset change. So and through things like libraries, through things like the power of books, through trainings, um, through building acceptance. But you're right, to have something at scale, it's definitely has to come from above. And
not just a
so
scale,
yeah.
Saba. It,
Hmm.
it needs to be bound by policy and
Policy,
funding
right.
from government. I
Policy and funding.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's it. Like, you bring the policy and you get the money,
Right.
and then people will get the benefit. Henna.
And
So
and you implement it on the ground in these rural spaces, in these small towns, so that we can see the effects of what's happening. Right. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And anything that I have not asked you that you would like to share as, a last ending note?
Since we talked about books, reading, library, rights for our community, one thing is that allyship building I want to mention here today. It's a Pride Month. We need more and more ally. We need more people to come and join hands together because it's the responsibility of the majority when it comes to the rights of the marginalized community or the minority community. If I'm minority and if my rights are in stake, then it's the responsibility of the majority. They should come as an ally. They should take a stand, and they should create a path ahead so that everyone's rights get ensured and they get the rights. So this is what I want to say to everyone who is listening and who will listen, that let's focus on allyship building, and together we can build a strong movement and ensure rights for everyone. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rituparna. And we at IDR look forward to continuing our discussions with you, our collaboration with you, and the young people that you work with, actually. That
Yes.
would be fantastic to talk to them as well. So thank you for today's IG Live. And thank you for this very topical subject for today. Zindabad.
Zindabad. Thank you, Saba. Thank you. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Idea team. Looking forward. Bye bye.
Looking
Take
forward.
care. Happy Pride
Bye.
once again. Bye.
Yes, happy Pride.